Hello everybody, it's Joel Dixon, Principal Urban Oasis Development, and I have an opportunity today to do a tour with Reverend Jairus Dorsey, pastor with New Zion Baptist Church, and his membership. The Three Palms Project, which many of you are already familiar with, is a byproduct of a partnership with this gentleman and his church. And so we're looking forward to showing them, now that it's a finished product, what they have been a part of. This is it. This is it. So that's the house that already sold. And so, of course, it was three that we put on here. They're all kind of basically the same floor plan. So we'll be just going into this one, but the other three are similar floor plan. Miss Judy grew up. Is it the blue one? Okay, yeah, that blue one. And so they all know about, from the neighborhood perspective. But one of the things is that, this neighborhood was built in 1957. This actual housing design is called a mid-century modern housing design. And it was a specific housing type that was being built a lot in the mid-century last year. And so neighborhoods like this one, so if you look at the housing structures, you'll see, even though they may not look as fancy with some of the window elements, you'll see the lines of how the angles of the roofing is. You'll see how they have carports. We don't technically have a carport here, but that's why we don't have a traditional garage, because this was like what they used to have. And then if you went up the street, you would see a number of these types. Historic Collier Heights also was a neighborhood that was built with a lot of mid-century modern designs and housing structures. And so it is a particular type of housing. Number two, with this particular type of housing, we wanted to embrace how we impact positively health, mental health in particular. And so this design, when it was also created, was largely created originally in the California area, because it also has a lot of naturally, environmentally friendly aspects to it. Obviously, the weather is usually typically more temperate than even down here, but that's why they embrace this element of bringing outside in. And so we are pulling from kind of that aesthetic that was brought here as well in the 50s, but actually started out there.
Oh, wow, it's nice. Beautiful. I think
And the crawl space. I like that.
A lot of times people think something feels too small, but it's not about how large a space is, it's how efficient that space is. And so in this room, you could literally put stuff anywhere because there's very few things that would prevent you. So this door is the only thing. Outside of that, you could have stuff on any one of these corners, any one of these spaces. You'll also notice that having a lot of large windows, so the light makes it feel much bigger. And once again, that's the other element of bringing outside in, is that it enlarges even the inside space. And then once again, we want to bring as much light to every room, including these rooms, so that everybody's benefiting once again from that positive mental health element. So this functions as your second bedroom. And so you can see kind of now how it might look if it was an office. Once again, it's really a bedroom though. The other thing is that it's a shared bathroom. So many of you may remember back in the 50s, right? We didn't have 5 bathrooms, 4 bathrooms, 3 bathrooms. You usually had one, maybe 2 bathrooms, and one of those is usually shared. And so we went back to that concept. If you just want something that's high quality and you're willing to share, remember back in the day when we all used to share? Then this is what will make this more affordable, and it doesn't prevent you from still having access to the bathroom, and then you're just saying, hey, all of our guests are gonna share that with you. So that's just another element in this case.
You see the map and everything?
Yep. So once you get to the main living area, now it opens up in so many ways, right? So open floor plan in terms of space, but also you look up and there's very high ceilings. And you'll notice that the windows are once again large windows here, but there's windows all along the top that brings in additional lighting. This was all a part of the mid-century design, which was not just windows at eye level, but windows at the ceiling level to bring in that additional lighting element. And so once again, it enlarges the amount of space that you feel like you're in, but also it contributes to all of the positive mental health elements. Even though this is an outside space, if you all were having dinner or somebody was in here talking, you know, some people were watching football in the living room and some people are out here playing cards or doing whatever, they still all feel connected because you can see them, they can see you. You can have this sliding door open, people coming in and out. And so that's the element of allowing some people to be outside but still connected to the inside. Also, it makes it very easy for you if you just wanted to work outside. You just walk across the threshold, you're outside getting not just the natural light, but also the natural air, the natural environment of being outside. And you all may recall during COVID, right, when we were all in place, right, then it was like, you know, people getting cabin fever, where in this context, you don't have to go far to just be outside, right? And of course, we also have a backyard area and back patio, but the courtyard was one of the fundamental aspects of mid-century modern design that was very unique because it was connected to the house. A lot of time your back deck is disconnected because it's like either you're outside on the deck and people are playing out there, or you're inside in the house. Here, they're all interconnected. I talked about how we're trying to create high performance housing which reduces your utility bill and makes it more cost effective. How that relates is that everything in this house is electric. So this is a 100% electric home. There's no gas or any other elements. Electric is the cleanest type of energy that we have, and that's the reason why it doesn't emit the same level of carbon emissions. But what that means is then all of your appliances have to be electric. The main thing that people aren't familiar with is the fact that stoves do not have to be gas. So some of you may have been in houses at different points that were electric. Well, this is the latest iteration of that. So I've been in houses that also were electric and they still had those burners, remember, they had the coils that turn orange and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is what's called basically a design for an electric just stovetop that literally is flat. So it's just flat. It fits directly on top of the shelf, just like anything else. But each one of these are burners. In addition to them being electric, though, there are safety components. Remember, burners, your young kid, I have a young son who's turning 1 tomorrow. They touch them burners. They'll learn it once, but that first time, they burn. Here, you can't actually burn yourself on here, one. Number two, when the energy builds up here, it actually builds up evenly throughout whatever this burner is. So the other thing that people always used to talk about with electric burners was that they don't cook as well as gas. These, the latest designs, absolutely cook not just as well, but in many times even better because it's an even distribution of the heat across the pan. So the other thing with gas is that, you know, you always got like the middle is hotter, the edge is slightly less, so you're always finagling. And we figured it out right, but here it actually burns evenly throughout. Yep, so. Yep, so the master includes direct access to, you know, the back deck, back patio area.
Oh, the double. Oh, look at that show. Oh my goodness. And it's got range. Can I go up?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Walking out here for breakfast.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
You got room for a garden. If you want a garden, you can have a garden here.
Right. Walk out here for continental breakfast.
The common patio, you kind of have your private-ish patio.
Lights on at night too, right?
Yep, you got the exterior lighting. But then this is, even though it may look like you have a small backyard, another element of mid-century is this concept of side yards. And we used to do a lot of this, like New Orleans has a lot of this concept with a lot of their housing, but also in Atlanta, we used to have housing that was had large side yards. And so you can see that this is essentially as big as a backyard. So even though people may think that's the backyard, no, you have a combination of all of this. Then you get to see how all of this connects right back to your courtyard area. You also have the context that, you know, you're here sitting, kids is out playing, right? What's your name? London. Oh, pleasure to meet you, London. So London might be out here playing with her friends. You all right here talking or chatting or whatever, looking at them. People can see you all right here, and then you can still see if there were people out there. And so it really is the case that if I'm sitting right here, I can watch my kids and everybody playing here. I can see what everybody's doing here. I can see what's going on the back patio. And so that's the completeness of all of this is now your living space, interior and exterior. Somebody was asking like how much, so it was listed for $599,000. Once again, you get all of these elements. But in the city of Atlanta, there's nothing less than $1 million for something like this. So even though it's not the lowest levels of affordability, it is relatively more affordable. And for those of you who did not see this all while it was going on, this is like a quick little video that kind of showcases the process, right? So I mentioned that there was a gentleman, Joseph Eckler, who actually was behind or the inspiration for the current design. That gentleman was a Caucasian guy. He happened to be a home builder that was very well respected, felt that this type of design, which even when it was being introduced back in the 40s, 50s, was very high-end design. And so it was used by a lot of big houses in the hills or in Palm Beach or whatever, or Palm Springs. That's what, he saw and actually lived in one. But he said, why can't everyday people have this? And so he came up and iterated a design that was for every man or woman. And that's what became this version of the mid-century modern design. But some of the other things that was so impactful is that back during that time, so remember, this is 40s, 50s. Segregation was still fully a thing. And redlining, which some of you are familiar with, which was the active participation of both the government and our financing banks and agents, real estate agents, to basically redline and dictate where black people would live and then where everybody else would live. And at that time, if you go buy a house now, right, you might get a loan, but that loan might also be backed by the Federal Home Administration, FHA loans, which have very low cost loans. Well, at this time, because of that, you couldn't get an FHA home if you looked like us in most neighborhoods. Because literally the bank would not give you a loan. And the builders were restricted from even allowing black people in their developments. Joseph Eckler was the first one to say, when I create my community, it's going to be open to anybody of any shade, of any kind, of any creed. This was revolutionary. He actually was removed from an organization called the National Home Builders Association, which is the trade organization for all home builders nationwide. He was removed from that membership because he did this, but he did not give in or he did not compromise on that principle. He ended up selling out these projects that now became some of the first diverse neighborhoods. This was all in California at the time. And that opened the pathway long before the laws were changed in the 60s and 70s that kind of desegregated our communities. He already as a builder was doing that. And so even as we were embracing the housing type, we were also embracing that mentality, which is building housing that's affordable for every person and building for neighborhoods that would be inclusive of every person and diverse. And so I just wanted to encourage and incorporate that because oftentimes people think of just one angle, but for us, this was a holistic set of angles. And so we do want to bring awareness to Joseph Eckler on both his design, but even more so on his social impact side of things. Other questions that anyone has, and young kids, I like young people as well, like you all are here, you got thoughts as well. What do you think? What do you think? All right, what about you, London? What do you think about everything?
It's amazing.
Oh, she said amazing.
What's your favorite thing, London, that you see in the house? What's your favorite?
The shower.
Oh, the shower? What about the shower? What do you like? Yeah.
Big old shower head.
You like that big shower head? Yeah. You want to let the water come down in your hair and just whip it? So interestingly enough, in a house, most people, the most important elements are kitchens and baths. Right. Typically, that's what sells a house. So you all's areas of focus are very much in line with everyday people who are buying. And so that's why we're very intentional about doing very strong designs. You know, when they were mentioning about liking this backsplash and making sure this looks great. And then also in the bathroom, making sure that there's a high level of aesthetic design to it.
We're gonna do areas for like community gardens and like outside areas. Everybody can so everybody can share it together.
Yeah, so interesting you mentioned that. And that gets into more holistic neighborhood development and planning. Now, even with this site, once again, what we envisioned is that there's enough land, right, where somebody could have a community, a garden for themselves. Because we want to embrace that. We do believe, like my family's from Montgomery, Alabama. I come from farmers that own land, still own land. I think there's a movement back towards that, right? Today we talk about like learning how to grow our own food supply, right? Because we don't trust, you know, what's coming out of our supermarkets, right? Also, what's coming out is unaffordable when you could just buy the seeds and do it yourself. And so there's enough land here to, one, have your own plot. But when it comes to, from a neighborhood perspective, a lot of the neighborhoods and communities have community gardens. So English Avenue, for example, has 3 different community gardens. And so we're building housing around that because, once again, we want to amplify that asset that already exists. We don't need to build another community garden. We just need to give more housing so more people can benefit from the garden that's already there. And so we are finding that Carver Hills does not have that, but that's where getting to some of the other elements for us as Urban Oasis Development, we're very intentional about community development. I mentioned I'm about building people, not just sticks and bricks. And so we do envision and think about how can we contribute to this Carver Hills neighborhood? And some of the ways is by building the right product, but also by telling them, hey, folks, what if there was a little community garden that was set up for one of these green spaces? Maybe it's on land that the church owns, maybe it's on land that the city owns. The main thing is to have, 1, the vision, and then 2, have people who are willing to put their hands into that work. But there definitely are opportunities for this particular neighborhood to have community garden. If y'all will follow me outside a little bit, and you know, we'll kind of finish up. But I do want to highlight, as I mentioned, the neighborhood that we're in. So you'll notice if you look at this street, and Carver Hills, of course, it's called Carver Hills because it's on a hill. Yeah, it's on a hill, and it allows for tremendous overlooks of the city if you go up on some of these streets at the top summits.
She knows she played on them.
Right, you played on them. But this community was built, once again, in 1957, was a working class neighborhood, predominantly was, you know, even at that time, working class black neighborhood and community. You can see the type of housing, once again, is ranch style, you know, 1 story typically, has kind of these angled roof styles that are similar to what you see with our mid-century modern design component. You'll notice that, once again, even though we're new construction, even the house next door to us, it doesn't look like we're towering over them. It doesn't look like we're demeaning them. It just looks like we're trying to amplify and reinvigorate what that house also used to look like when it was brand new, right? The other thing about Carver Hills is that there was a school, Finch Elementary, which is right down this street actually, where that was the central, and a community center basically, where that was the center of bringing a lot of people together. So you had your homeowners, working class that were here, and you had, let's just call it, your lower income folks that were in public housing right 2 minutes over there, but they all fed into the same school. And so these schools provided a strong community connectedness. Unfortunately, Finch was closed down, which now starts disintegrating that connectedness. Another thing that happened even before that is that there was a large landfill that was developed right next to this neighborhood. That landfill, when we talk about environmental injustice, this is a perfect example. That landfill was started, and that landfill literally over time went from being ground level to being 3, 4, 5 stories high. And you can only imagine, you're right next to where people are living. What is coming off of that landfill? All kinds of toxins. Well, over the course of time, a study was done that finally, because the neighborhoods fought it for a long time, forever. They were always like, what's going on? Like, this can't be healthy. But the city and the federal obviously was behind all of this, said, nope, nope, nope. Well, eventually there was a study done by a university where they were like, there's too many deaths happening in Carver Hills that cannot be explained by just normal means. And they showed the data, and that's the final tipping point, is that they showed at least 2 to 3 deaths every year was just related to the toxins coming off of that. That forced the city and the feds to eventually shut it down. Over time, you know, it kind of got replaced with other things. But this is the environmental injustice that, like, who's compensated for that, and the disconnectedness it then created. And then you had the tearing down of Perry homes eventually to then build what's now the West Highlands development. Productive in one sense, right? Because, you know, you grew up there, you know, at that point in time when it was being torn down, it was not the best environment. But you displaced a whole bunch of affordability, and now some of that was replaced with housing, but not as many as what was there before. And now we have $700,000-800,000 houses. And so I mention all of this to say it's very important that we as Urban Oasis Development bring awareness, one, to the quality and the history of Carver Hills and this community, that we reconnect the people to each other, and that we also include a variety of housing and affordable options such that everybody can both come back to a community that they had to leave or remain in the community that they love, even as there are new goods and services, because this area is starting to grow. It's not far from the new Westside Park, which is the largest green space in Atlanta. It's not far from an area called West Midtown, which has, you know, 10, 30-story buildings and a lot of restaurants and things. So it's going to continue to have opportunities. The question is, opportunities for whom? And so we are trying to work with the community to actually share with them how to be a part of this process in a more active way, and the tools to re-empower them. I came once again from a family of community organizers. Unfortunately, with time, there's been a lot of disillusionment and disempowerment, which makes people feel like there's nothing they can do. And so when we're also coming into a neighborhood, we're also saying, no, there's absolutely something you can do. When I was growing up in public housing projects, there was a strong governance structure that could get all the way to the mayors of Atlanta at that time, because there was a strong power base of people and community organization that allow even the lowest among us to still have a voice. A lot of that has been lost, but we're letting them know it's not lost in reality. It's just been lost in terms of how that activism happens. And so that's another element that I also want people to know about, is that we're not just building houses, we're rebuilding communities. And so that's in the early stages for Carver Hills, but stay tuned, because we're going to continue to be a part of that. And that's the reason why this is a great transition or ending point, because coming full circle, right, you all have been here for a while, right? You know, this church has been contributing to the fabric of people development in many ways for longer than I have. And so the opportunity to both partner on physical spaces, but also now to see, hey, how do we start partnering with how people get developed? And that's what I hope to continue to partner with you all with going forward. And of course, we're going to bring in the wider community in that context. Thank you all.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate everything, buddy.
Hey.
I'll be in touch with you.
This is what we're in the business of.
Thank you so much, Joel.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hi, everybody. My name is Judy, and I am a past, present, and former member of this neighborhood, the Carver Hills community. I was born here many moons ago, but I just want to talk about the new Urban Oasis project here in Carver Hills. The houses here were very nice houses. I was here when they first opened up and built the houses, and they were very nice family homes. You knew every person in the neighborhood. We all got along together, and even the church on the corner, we were all here together all our lives. And after most people grew up and moved away, and all the parents and everything left, the neighborhood kind of deteriorated a lot. And it really, the school, we had a school across the street, well, a couple of streets over, Finch Elementary School. It was torn down. They put a police training center there, and not good for the community. The reason why I say that is because of the helicopters, the gunshots, and all that stuff. But it was good for the police, but it just wasn't good for the community. And then after that, everybody else left the community. But Urban Oasis came in here, and they built the most amazing homes I cannot believe how efficient they are. They're beautiful. The windows, the kitchen, everything is so great, and they match the community. They're not overtowering, huge houses, making people feel bad about their little houses. And it's just so great. I mean, we really love it. And I think they're doing an excellent job. I can't wait to see the other things they have in the future coming. And I think it's great for families. It's great for singles. It's great for elderly. It's great for anybody that wants to come in here. It's a great, and I hope it brings everybody back to the community that lived here before. The families, the children, the grandchildren, and everybody. And basically that's it. I love this area so much, and I love what they've done. Thank you for your time. Okay.
And hi, I'm Quo Heath, and like Miss Judy, I am from this neighborhood as well. Miss Judy is also someone I've known since forever, since I was a little kid. I'm the same age as a few of her daughters. So this is familiar and it's comfortable, and to piggyback off what she said, it's, you know, this is beautiful in what you've done. You had me sold at vitamin D deficient. I love the open space and everything within this community with what Urban Oasis Development is bringing. I used to live in Perry Homes community. I lived there all the way up. I was born there all the way up until I was, I believe, 13 when the projects was torn down. We moved away, and then my mom brought us back with the West Highlands community. Then I went off to college, and then it was ready time to come back. We're like, I can't afford to live here. So what you guys are doing in regards to being an energy efficient space here in the community, I absolutely love that. I don't want a huge house, but I don't want a basic house. So with what you guys are doing, I love the holistic approach in regards to you just not, you know, brick and mortar or sticks and stones, but about what it is that we need here. So I love what you guys are doing. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to coming back into this community in the future so that I'll be able to help other girls that look like me, even in the present.
So yeah, so you know, I will tell you that honestly, this warms my heart because this is what Urban Oasis Development was created for. It was about community connectedness, people empowerment, but also really being a part of those who are part of a fabric that predated, you know, us. I grew up in a community that I now live in, and it's great to be a part of seeing it reimagine and redevelop, but also be able to live in that community. So I really, you know, connect, you know, with what you're saying about, hey, wanting to move back and be a part of this energy and revitalization of a neighborhood that you grew up in. And that's what we're trying to do. And then I love, you know, as you were just talking about, you know, how you grew up and you remember and know the neighbors who lived here, also the things that led to some of the dysfunctionality, and how what you're seeing that we're doing is hopefully gonna turn back, you know, that tide, you know, and as opposed to being a disincentive to community development, really now start incentivizing back to that strong community that, you know, you grew up in and you talked about. And so I just want to take the time to say thank you all both for coming to visit this. Thank you for participating as a part of the church with allowing us to, you know, acquire this site. And just know that, like, it doesn't end here now. You know, this is actually the beginning, which is, okay, now we have a cornerstone. Let's start building off of this something that will be even superior to what we're talking about today, so that, you know, the next time we're talking about, you know, many, many more houses and many more people, and hopefully both of you, you know, being able to be back in one of those, because that's really the final vision. But we appreciate you all acknowledging our beginning point, and Urban Oasis Development is definitely excited for all of those who are watching to continue to do this. Carver Hills is one of the communities, but we already have done work across neighborhoods like Adair Park, West End, English Avenue, Grove Park. So there's many neighborhoods that in the city, my city of Atlanta, that I want to see re-energized and impacted. And that is both in the quality of housing, the energy efficiency of the housing, the mental health empowerment of the housing, and then of course the affordability of the housing. So look forward to coming to your neighborhood, those that are watching. But thank you all so much for bringing us and allowing us in yours.
Thank you.
Look, thank you.
We appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.